What's up, everybody? Gun here. Hope this video finds you well. It is Wednesday, July 29th, 2020, and finally, it looks like we've got a little bit of baseball with a lot of bit of aces. And I don't even care if they're aces. We've gotten some pitching options of guys we know are established starters with some data to back it up, man. The last 2 days have been really flimsy when it comes to researching and selecting pitchers. Last night went well for me. Night before, not so much. Tonight, I'm excited to see some familiar names and faces. If you haven't already taken a quick peek at the slate, we got guys like Jacob Degrom, Garrett Cole, Charlie Morton, all big-time aces for their team. Well, maybe Morton's not the ace for Tampa, but all really solid pitchers. And, of course, Charlie Morton could be an ace for a lot of teams in baseball, so I'm excited about that. We have 9 games to chop up, and at last glance, it doesn't look like we're going to have weather concerns either, and there's only a couple of West Coast games, so that should make this slate somewhat condensed, and we won't be sitting around for a whole lot of lineups. Last night was a weird one. If you guys played along with me, it was a lot of flimsy, low-tier pitching options price-wise, and then it opened up all the salary in the world to give you guys like Christian Yelich, JD Martinez, Mike Trout, all big-time names. JD Martinez with a goose egg, Christian Yelich with a goose egg. Mike Trout, I think, finished with 6 DraftKings points, a single and a run, that run off of a Rendon homer late in that game. I think it was like the 8th inning. So a lot of the big boys didn't show up, and that's kind of a detriment of having too much salary in baseball, right? We start playing those studs, and I'm a longtime proponent of not really caring about salary in baseball. There's not really a value system I believe in, where I believe in value on NFL and of course, NBA. But for baseball, man, 2K guys go out there, hit bombs just like the 6K guys. So it's more of creating a lineup with a plan and a purpose and some game theory behind it. But it's really hard to find yourself in a position to play a guy like Kristen Stewart over a guy like Mike Trout if you have just unlimited salary. And that's kind of what we saw yesterday. And we also saw kind of a low cash line. Unlike the night before yesterday, we saw a little less scoring, a little less home runs. The night before, we saw, 3 or 4 double dong games. Last night, not so much. Javier was your highest scoring hitter of the night. He went 3 for 5 with 2 home runs. The only double dong, 3 RBIs and 3 runs. And your best pitcher last night was Merrill Kelly, $10,000. Arizona starting pitcher at Texas. He threw 7 innings of 3-hit baseball, gave up just 1 run. I believe that was a Rougned Odor home run. On a normal day, $10K for Merrill Kelly probably doesn't make you feel warm and fuzzy, but last night, if you took that leap of faith, it probably helped you get there because you put more money into pitching than you would have done in hitting or in your outfield. So, a little wonky day, but today I'm excited to have some more upper echelon, stud-like pitching at the top of the list, and that's going to make us get a little bit more creative and a little bit more research-intensive in our hitters, and perhaps make it to where some stud guys aren't 25-30% owned like we saw yesterday. I think J.D. Davis, shortstop for the Mets, not shortstop, J.D. Davis of the Mets was like 30% owned. Ahmed Rosario was up there as well. He's the shortstop. So I'm excited to see what the ownerships look like after lock. I'm excited to have Yankees baseball back. Of course, the Yankee games the last 2 days were postponed, the Phillies series, due to the kerfluffle with the Marlins and their COVID drama. So I'm excited to have some Yankee baseball tonight. And we kind of get the Baltimore Orioles, the projected punching bags of the AL East. So enough blabbering about that. If you guys are stumbling across this video on YouTube, help me out. Hit that thumbs up if you like what you hear after listening to a couple minutes of analysis, man. Hit that subscribe button. Ring that notifications bell if you hadn't. Of course, the COVID coronavirus break made the channel go 3-4 months without fresh content, and inactive, idle channels tend to get lost in the algorithm. So the best way for you guys to help me shake the channel back into the forefront of the algorithm is just interact with the channel. Leave comments, leave thumbs up, share the video where you can. If you follow me on Twitter, I'm certain I will tweet this video out. Just retweet it, show me some love. I'd appreciate it. Otherwise, let's buckle up. Let's get cranked up. And I want to remind you that we will be using the RunDFS.com MLB VIP spreadsheet throughout the duration of this video to analyze, research each game. And you guys can add this spreadsheet to your daily research process by going to RunDFS.com. Make yourself an account. At the top, you click VIP passes once you're logged in, and that'll open up several options. We got a week pass at $25, 2-week pass at $45, a month pass at $80. Or you can get locked in until January 1st for $300. This is not just for baseball. Basketball is back when? Tomorrow night, Thursday night. We got a 2-game slate, a milli maker for a 2-game basketball slate. How nuts is that? And we will have coverage for that. We'll have the spreadsheet for that. You guys, most of you guys subscribe to the channel or either hear from my NFL or my NBA content anyway. So this is a great time to get a pass, double dip. It's going to be a great time to play dual sports. Basketball is going to be more of an all-day thing. And then, of course, we'll have those night slates for MLB. So a lot to grind in addition to access to the RunDFS.com MLB and NBA spreadsheets. You'll get 24/7 access to the RunDFS.com VIP Discord. And I think that is worth the price of admission. So much fun to be had in that Discord while being productive as members of the DFS community. We like to wind down at the end of the night, so you might see some laughing. But for the most part, man, every day we'll have pre-log voice chats. You guys can DM me questions. You guys can talk amongst the group. I mean, we've got 60 plus members of some of the sharpest DFS grinders, all bankroll levels. We got guys grinding the quarter arcade. We got guys in here that have won 100K before. Adine. I don't know how he did it. I don't know how that guy. I'm just kidding. Love you, Adine. He won 100K on NBA. We got some big hitters in this chat, and we got guys at every bankroll level, so you guys can have fun with that. And then before lock, we'll have voice chats, man. We'll talk the slate out. We'll keep our ear to the ground collectively. Somebody sees a beat writer say something, they share it with the chat. You share it in the voice chat. You don't have to grab a mic and be part of the chat, although we welcome you to do so. You could just listen in and have some fun times as we all work on our lineups to hit that next big prize. So anyway, come join us. Check that out. If you have any other questions about that, twitter.com/GundeckerSports. My DMs are open. I'd be glad to field any questions you might have. Let's talk about tonight. Lots of games on the docket, and I'm excited to have several pitching options. I'm excited for low weather risk. I'm just excited for Yankees baseball. Let's go. Game number 1, the Milwaukee Brewers at the Pittsburgh Pirates. The first thing that stands out to me is the slate is at 7:05. Yes, I don't know what's been going on the last 2 days for us to have these weird 6:05s or 5:05s, depending on where you live, and these random 5:40s, 6:40s. 7:05, bro. That's how I grew up. Let's keep it like that. So Milwaukee Brewers up against the Pittsburgh Pirates. We got Brandon Woodruff on the bump for Milwaukee. He'll be up against Joe Musgrove. Brandon Woodruff started the season 0-1. He's got a 3.6 ERA, 5 strikeouts in his last appearance. He did throw 85 pitches on opening day, and he was burned by one of them, which was a misplaced sinker to Ian Happ that went for a 2-run homer. Woodruff came out hot, touching 99.3 miles per hour in the first inning. We love high velo. Joe Musgrove, 0-1 as well, 4.76 ERA. He got 7 strikeouts in that last outing. He didn't have his best fastball on opening day, but he did strike out 7, like I said, over 5 2/3 innings against the St. Louis Cardinals. He'll look to work deeper into the game in his second outing, as much of the pitchers that we're about to talk about will. A lot of pitchers are on their second start now, and that'll start seeing some 80, 85 pitch counts stretched out to 95, and we'll start knocking on the door of 100 pitches, hopefully within 3 or 4 starts. the Vegas totals for this game. 4.7 implied run total for the Milwaukee Brewers, 3.9 for the Pittsburgh Pirates. It's almost a run favored Milwaukee, minus 148. Brandon Woodruff on a slate that features some high-end upper echelon pitching. Certainly a guy that I would be curious with. We'll probably have some exposure to if we go to that pitcher metric chart in the RunDFS.com MLB VIP spreadsheet. Woodruff has a top 4 Sierra from last season. You know, I love me some Sierra. And he's got a swing and strike rate to back it up, 11.6% last season. Very low walk rate. You like to see that as well. Shows that he's not going to waste a lot of pitches. And pitches come at a premium right now, and he keeps the ball on the ground more than he lets the ball in the air. So I definitely think he's a serviceable option. I know my first instinct was to try and make Degrom and Garrett Cole work today. After looking at DraftKings, at least, the pricing seems a little bit tighter. So maybe guys like Brandon Woodruff are going to have to fall in line as a SP2. Maybe up against the Pirates here. The Pirates not necessarily a big K team, just guys like Colin Moran, Brian Reynolds, Gregory Polanco, Jacob Stallings are the guys with a over 1 in 5 strikeout rate, but still a guy with enough talent to get through and earn some strikeouts. Nearly a 29% K rate to lefties last season. Average was a little up, home run per 9 a little bit up, but the xFIP at 3.5 tells me maybe there's some room for regression there. So I'm definitely throwing Brandon Woodruff in my player pool. Joe Musgrove, for me, not a need for it today. 5,300 in DraftKings, 67 is nice. I'm tired of being cute at pitcher the last 2 days. So, Joe, it's going to be a no for me, dog. You did your thing. 4.31 Sierra last season, a 4.31 xFIP. Does have a nice swing and strike rate at 12% last season. But I just don't think that I need to get there today unless you really, really wanted some cheapies to go get you something like a Yankee stack or a Dodger stack, something like that, you know? And I'm pretty pitcher intensive here. So if I did want to pick on Brandon Woodruff, obviously a power lefty could maybe send one over the wall. Colin Moran has been somewhat hot in the last couple of days, a couple of home runs to boot for him. His hard contact rate against righties coming in from last season, not that high, but we are seeing some home runs lately. Some home runs that are a little bit more suspect. And if you guys remember the juice ball era controversy last season, and you think about the need for many, 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 many more baseballs this season with all the rules and regulations for COVID, there's already some conspiracies floating around that the juice ball is even juicier. And I don't want to kind of put a tinfoil hat on or aluminum hat on, but that's certainly something I'm keeping an eye on because we're seeing some weird names hit some home runs. And 2 nights ago, we saw a lot of double and triple dongs. So something to keep an eye on. Anybody from the Pirates that really stand out here? Probably not forefront-wise. There are some interesting price discrepancies between FanDuel and DraftKings. Josh Bell, just 3,200 on FanDuel versus 51 on DraftKings. And anyone else? Brian Reynolds is 2,300. I know I got him in the 5-hole projected here, but we have seen him as high as the 2 spot. So definitely not out of the picture for me. And then Gregory Polanco, we know historically has had a little bit of pop here. Almost slugged 500 last 2 seasons against righties. So certainly somebody that could be a curious click in a lineup that featured some high-end pitchers like Degrom, like Garrett Cole. Joe Musgrove, if he was going to let one over the wall, looks like lefties has been his bigger problem. Average hard contact rate allowed, $1.25 home run per 9. Any lefties we want to go out of our way to get? I'll tell you what, Christian Yelich, kind of a slot machine situation here. I've definitely seen a lot of you guys tilt him. I played him a lot last night. Did not go well. His only homer of the season, and it's a young season, don't get me wrong, I believe it was off a lefty in that Cubs game. But he's 5,900 on DraftKings today. These near 6K hitters are likely going to get sub 10% ownership just because of the need to pay up for high aces, the Garrett Coles and the Jacob Degrom. So maybe Yelich bounces back at low ownership here. Again, at 6K for a hitter, you're going to need, you're not necessarily going to need him if he just hits one homer, but if he has one of those big days at low ownership while the field is down on him, might be a curious time to go back and click him. Keston Hiura did hit a homer yesterday. He was very, very, very trendy in most of my contests. He's cheap enough on FanDuel to go and get it 3,200. Again, Joe Musgrove here, not a great metrical matchup here. High fly ball rate, but also a 42% ground ball rate, middling to low hard contact rate, just below average, and not a lot of home run per nine allowed to righties the last 2 seasons. So the matchup certainly a downgrade versus what we saw yesterday. Justin Smoke, 2,700 on FanDuel. If he's around that cleanup spot, I mean, these are those bargain bin guys we absolutely have to consider if we're going to pay up at pitching. Let's move on to the next game here. Atlanta Braves hosting the Tampa Bay Rays. What a weird series that has been. They're flip-flopping here, going from Tropicana down in Tampa all the way up to Atlanta, just one state north. And we're going to see Mike Soroka taking the bump for the Braves. Mike Soroka, that's right. If you guys followed the Braves last season, he had some trendy games, some games where we started rooting for him. He only has 3 strikeouts on the season. He did throw 6 scoreless in Friday's opening day loss, and he will now search for his first win in the home opener. He's 22 years old, and he had the NL's 3rd best ERA, finished 2nd for Rookie of the Year in 2019. He'll be up against Charlie Morton. Morton 0-1 with a 13.5 ERA, just 4 strikeouts to his name. He's looking to bounce back after allowing 6 runs in 4+ innings on opening day against the Blue Jays. The 6 runs he allowed are tied for the most in a game as a member of the Rays. Morton will face off against the Braves, the organization that drafted him in 2002. 18 years ago. Man, that coming full circle. Rays a 4.1 implied run total. Braves a 4.5. Braves a -121 favorite right now. Again, these are 2 pitchers that are certainly serviceable. I think Mike Soroka's price point on DraftKings leaves a little bit to be desired, considering that last season his strikeout stuff to lefties was sub 15% in a 4.59 xFIP. This is a Rays lineup that will probably throw half switch hitters or lefties at him. So I do worry about that as a potential downgrade, especially since there's some other big names on this slate with a lot of high upside. But in and of himself, sure, there's a reason to maybe like him for low ownership. If you're running 150 lineups, sure, go for it. There are some strikeouts to be had in this Rays lineup. Meanwhile, the Rays, you take him out of Tropicana. Now we're going outside. We did see him put up some runs in that Mike Foltynewicz start 2 games ago. Put them outside, the air, not the white ceilings, man. Maybe they get a little bit of fresh air in their lungs, and we start seeing another blow-up game from them. They do have some pop here. Ji-Man Choi, he slugs over 500 against righties the last 2 years. Brandon Lau, over 500. Plenty of options for this team to maybe put up some points on the board, and on FanDuel, very financially, economically sound. I mean, Ji-Man Choi on FanDuel, he's a sub 3K potential leadoff guy, and now he bats switch hitter. So certainly a guy I could consider to maybe give me some bargain, some discount on my total salary. Charlie Morton, by the way, 10.8K on DraftKings, 9.4K on FanDuel. The knee-jerk reaction by the field is going to be simple. Hey, Garrett Cole's on the slate, Jacob Degrom's on the slate, but let's be realistic here. 12K for Jacob Degrom, 11.4K for Garrett Cole. I mean, you put these 2 together, your lineup has just $3,325 average salary remaining per player. It's going to be really hard to make that work. So maybe you start considering some Charlie Morton lineups in mass entry, or even 3-entry max. And whether or not you want Morton to be an SP2, that's up to you. But he certainly is worth a look. I know Atlanta, historically, not a team I want to target for strikeouts. Well, we have seen some strikeouts in the last couple of days. Tyler Glasnow had his way with the Braves. The bullpen came in and continued that streak. Certainly, guys in this lineup, Ronald Acuna, Matt Adams, Austin Riley, Tyler Flowers, Dansby Swanson. Hold me closer, Dansby Swanson. There's definitely some strikeout potential here. So Charlie Morton could right the ship here. One thing to note about Charlie Morton, we look at his pitch report in that RunDFS.com VIP spreadsheet. He's going to throw that curveball 37.3% of the time. And this is a pitch that gets mixed results from the Braves. Ronald Acuna with a 3+ grade against the curveball. And, of course, this is on a linear scale kind of like the runs created. If zero's the league average, over zeros plus, below zeros below average, he's 3. That's massive. Same with Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman has quite a bit of sample size to boot. So certainly 2 guys that could maybe fill the lineup as contrarian guys that you have to pay up for. 5.5 on Freddie Freeman, likely to draw very little to no ownership. 5.7 for this Brave stack it's just not going to happen. I mean, this is going to be a 3% owned stack more than likely, unless something dramatic happened, like Charlie Morton gets scratched. But even then, it raised bullpen. I mean, I don't know what algorithm spit out 5+ K for the Braves, but it's broken. It shouldn't be that. So the matchup certainly does not warrant ownership on them at this price point at all. But if you're talking low ownership leverage, hey, you can certainly see it. Charlie Morton has been rather elite. I can't really overreact to his first game. I will say a couple of these guys, I'm curious to go check out their metrics on their first game. If we go to their player card on FanGraphs, I hit game log. I just want to see if there's any particular discrepancies from that game versus what we know historically about him. So let's go to pitch type. So in that game against the Blue Jays, we saw nearly 60% fastball at a 91.8 average miles per hour velocity. If we go to the pitch report, and it's going to tell us the last couple of years, he's been at 94.4 average miles per hour velocity. So, but again, short sample size, and pitchers are going to be slower in the first couple of outings as they build their arm strength back up. But as you saw it, Mike Foltynewicz of the Braves could be a problem if you drop velocity. So for him to drop, 3-4 miles per hour could be something to note. Also, curveball, 35% of the time in that game against the Blue Jays. That's about what he averaged last season. And then that cutter last season, 10.5%. How much did he throw? He only threw it 6% in that game against the Blue Jays. That had an average velocity of 82.2 miles per hour, which is about 2 to 3 miles per hour less than game 1. So I don't want to overreact to that, but in the mid 80s, you're I don't know. It's definitely worth noting that maybe we should watch his velocity going into tonight. So with that said, certainly would not be a guy that ranks Morton near a Cole or Degrom in terms of raw points, but understanding how this slate is kind of spread out, priced out. I mean, this is ridiculous. The Braves being this price, it's going to be hard to get a decent stack with some of these upper echelon pitching, especially if you're trying to get 2 of those pitchers. Mike Soroka, 9K on FanDuel. I really don't see myself landing there, and at 9.5 on DraftKings as well. He's kind of in no man's land, right? Just 2 9K pitchers. I like a shot at Chris Paddock for $1,000 less, and we talked about Brandon Woodruff, and he's also $1,400 less. So I certainly could see myself easily making the case against getting to a guy like Mike Soroka. So nothing else here really that needs to be broke down anymore. So let's move on to the next game here. The New York Metropolitans hosting the Boston Red Sox. Looks like a lot of away and home back-to-backs. Mets and Boston running a couple games in Fenway the last 2 nights, featuring some offensive outbursts from the New York Mets. Last night, J.D. Davis got himself a pesky pole homer, the cheapest homer in all of baseball. But I'm not mad at him because I had plenty of that. Nate Iavaldi, former Yankee great, taking the bump for the Boston Red Sox. He's 1-0 with a 1.5 ERA, has 4 strikeouts to his name. He was outstanding in his first start of the season, holding the Orioles to 1 run over 6 innings while walking 1 and striking out 4. He threw 89 pitches and the first registered 99.6 miles an hour. That's very important to note because we just talked about Charlie Morton's velocity, maybe losing a step. We mentioned Mike Foltynewicz. Nathan Iavaldi's a guy who's had Tommy John in the past, and he's always been a pitcher based on his high velocity fastball. So to see him touch 99, flirting with 100 in his first game, very good news for a guy if you want to play him going forward, and will likely be a trade chip for the Red Sox if he continues that trend. The Mets will throw Jacob Degrom 0-0 on the season with a 0.00 ERA, 8 strikeouts, man. More zeros than my bank account. I don't know. I don't have bars for that. Because Degrom missed most of a summer camp game due to back tightness, the Mets limited him to 5 innings and 72 pitches on opening day. He should be good for around 6 innings here and more than 90 pitches versus Boston. So Boston, thus far, I think we can all agree, has been rather lackluster, a little bit disappointing. And I find him rather shallow and pedantic. Man, how many times is JD Martinez, Jose Peraza, how many times are they going to let us down? It would be hashtag DFS for them to find a way to go off today, but I will not be making that bet. They have an implied run total of 3.2. I've said in the past, whenever a team gets down to like a 3-run total, typically I'll take a shot on the over because it doesn't take much for a team to score 3 runs of baseball. A bloop and a blast, a walk, a hit by pitch, and a solo shot. It really adds up quickly. So that's a bet I usually take a lot of the times. Am I going to run to do that bet here against Jacob Degrom? Well, I'd probably stay away from the first 5 bet. But once the bullpen comes in, guys like Edwin Diaz, all bets are off. Mets have an implied run total of 4.4. This game's projected to be rather lower scoring. It's going to be just under 90 degrees out there in Citi Field. And I got winds blown out to dead center. So nobody's going to particularly project extremely well here. However, Nathan Iavaldi has shown some leaks against lefties historically. Even when he was with the Yankees, lefties would get to him. But last season, a 3.38 home run per 9 with a 5.7 xFIP. I know stats like that likely mean a little bit shallower sample size, but the trajectory of his career kind of tells us that that's not abnormal, right? In 2019, if we pull up his splits, if Fangraphs will allow me to do so. Did I not just pull up his card, or am I tripping? Nate Iavaldi. Me and Nate Dog. Splits. 2019. Is Fangraphs just gonna not work right now? I'm live, Fangraphs. You let me down. Iavaldi. I'm just kidding. I'm a subscriber. Love you, Fangraphs. There we go. There we go. Splits. Yeah, pills are good. Alright, yeah. 2020, 2019. Oh, I didn't click standard. Am I still on pitching? Yeah, okay. I'm a dopey. Splits. Or maybe not. Trying to paint a picture. Alright, you know what? Let's go to ESPN here. Nathan Iavaldi. Let's just pull up ESPN stats here. I sure hope whatever's going on with Fangraphs kind of fixes itself while I'm on the air, because I use it a lot. So last year against lefties, we've got 124 at bats, so not a whole lot of sample size, 12 homers. So yeah, definitely can kind of suppress overreaction there. But like I said, his career trajectory agrees with the fact that he does give up homers to lefties. So who can hit a homer off a high velocity fastball? Brandon Nimmo is a candidate, but Michael Conforto kind of sticks out to me. 3K on FanDuel 4600 on DraftKings. I think FanDuel is going to be a little bit more economically flexible when it comes to salary, and Conforto could be one of those guys if he's around the cleanup spot. I don't mind that at all. Let's see what his grade against the fastball is. 0.88. Peter Alonso's hit the fastball really well. Jeff McNeil. Well, we're not playing McNeil for power. Brandon Nimmo as well. So a couple guys there that could do well here. The Red Sox bullpen, nothing to run from. On a different slate, I might have a little bit more consideration for Iavaldi, because I do believe there's some strikeout potential. Maybe Nimmo 25%, Alonso 25%, essentially Conforto 22%. There's enough strikeouts in that lineup that I'd be a little bit curious, but I don't think that I need to go there today, and I'm not too sold it's going to end up with a win against Jacob Degrom. Although if you're a fan of historical pitching splits, the Mets tend to not give Jacob Degrom run support. That's not really a quantifiable stat. Guys don't perform worse, but it's just really for the last couple seasons, it's been a pretty noticeable trend that Jacob Degrom doesn't tend to get a lot of run support. So maybe if you believe in that, Iavaldi is a little bit more of a guy that you'd take a shot on because of the need for maybe a discount at SB2. All right, let's keep it moving. Jacob Degrom. You don't need me to tell you to play Jacob Degrom, right? If you can fit him, play him. 12K on DraftKings, 11.2K on FanDuel. I will say the fact that he seems to have a pitch count We said his pitch count would probably not be more than 90, so 90 is probably a ceiling. And 6 innings. So if he went 6 innings of Jacob Degrom baseball and he did walk away with a win, there's a great chance of getting you a quality start. Good chance that he flirts with, he had 8 strikeouts last time. Could flirt with 10 strikeouts. I mean, this Boston Red Sox team has not been too great. The last 2 seasons, only J.D. Martinez and Jackie Bradley Jr. Strike out at 22% or more against righties, but Jacob Degrom is not a normal human being. So there's that. So if you got some room for Degrom, definitely have some exposure to him. I certainly will in all formats, absolutely. I love strong pitchers that you can just depend on, to know that they're going to do what they do and get you a large chunk of points to get you closer to cash line. Last couple nights, it's been the polar opposite. It really has. Dodgers at the Astros. You guys check out that game last night. Joe Kelly. Man, I'm not a Joe Kelly guy, right? Red Sox reliever. He did beam Tyler Austin. There was an infamous benches clearing brawl between the Red Sox and the Yankees in Fenway. Tyler Austin rushed the mound here, and then there's just great shots of like Giancarlo Stanton, Aaron Judge, CC Sabathia looking for that smoke. Nothing happened because it's baseball and stuff never happens, but we did get kind of a social distancing benches clearing argument. Carlos Correa ate a strikeout, and Alex Bregman took a fastball to behind the head. So Joe Kelly definitely showed a little bit of sass, a little pizzazz, and made some faces towards Carlos Correa. And oh no, I felt so bad for the Astros. Let me tell you, poor guys. What did they ever do wrong? Shame. Dustin May taking the bump for the Dodgers today. He'll be up against Cristian Javier. Dustin May, a.k.a. Carrot Top. He's got a 2.08 ERA on the season, 4 strikeouts. He gets an encore assignment after showing flashes of brilliance during an emergency opening night start of 4 1/3 innings. He's got poise, nasty movements, and he throws strikes, and he throws heat. Dustin May, guy that can flirt with high 90s on his fastball. You might remember 5 days ago, he was a surprise starter as Clayton Kershaw was put on the injured reserve list. I did see that Dave Roberts kind of told him the day before that there's a good chance that he would pitch opening day. So it wasn't like a, hey, kid, get out there thing, but short notice to go out there and be a big league opening day starter. And now you're going against Astros, a perennial World Series contender, and there is some bad blood and there's some problems. But Dustin May is awfully cheap. It's the Astros, so I'm not going to get too crazy here. But I definitely think he's more talented than his price. So, I don't know. If I needed an SB2, I'd take some shots on him and maybe a turbo slate or something like that. 21.4% K rate against righties. The biggest threats on the Astros that we worry about, historically, George Springer, Jose Altuve, Bregman, Carlos Correa. Springer's off to a really cold start to the season, and I know these K percentages are down. This is a team that I will be definitely watching their K percentages as this season progresses, because it wasn't but a couple years ago Astros led the league in strikeouts, and then knowing what we know now, their strikeout numbers went down. So if they go back to what they were prior to the trash can banging, I wouldn't be too surprised. We're going to have to do some digging here, do some research. Cristian Javier, scheduled to be at least the opener for the Astros here. He's going to make his first major league start in place of injured Justin Verlander. Javier, who threw a scoreless inning in his debut Saturday, was the Astros minor league pitcher of the year last season. Now, I'm going to look up his information just out of curiosity, but I definitely could never see a scenario where I play this guy today. One, I'm probably going to make it a pretty steady habit to not pitch against the Astros. And two, it sounds like he's probably not going to be a long innings eater anyway. Last season in AAA, we only have 11 innings of sample size. We're not going to use that. Let's go to AA. Again, not a whole lot of sample size here. Oh, yeah, there is. 37 innings against lefties, a 127 average allowed, a 0.96 whip, 36.2 innings against righties. In AA, 121 average allowed, 0.93 whip. His home runs, 1 homer in those 37 innings to lefties, 4 against righties. So it looks like the righties could be about a home run per 9 or greater, but lefties not so much. Is there any other? Maybe we go digging 2018 just a little bit. 22 against lefties, 258 average, 38 against righties, 162. All right, so sounds like he's not a scrub. I think the Dodgers is just one of those teams when I'm mass centering, I'm going to have Dodger stacks, even if it's just a low percentage. No reason for me to play Christian Javier, clicking blindly on this slate. Just I did that the last 2 days at pitcher. I don't need to do it today. Like I said, I don't have a lot of confidence it's going to go super deep. The Dodgers, as of this recording, there is no line for this game, likely because Vegas is probably still trying to decide their thoughts on the pitching situation for Houston. All the Dodgers are in play, and I guess technically all the Astros are in play. Like I said, Dustin May does throw some heat, and the Astros will be playing some inspired baseball. So if you believe in that as a narrative, maybe guys like Springer, Bregman, they'll come out firing. Those are the only 2 guys with an over 1 grade against the fastball, and this is a very plus fastball. He will back it up with a cutter, and it's a very plus cutter. But guys like Jose Altuve, Michael Brantley, and Yuli Gurriel all have super plus grades against the cutter. Michael Brantley might be really worth mentioning because we talked about your lack of salary if you do play Jacob Degrom and Garrett Cole or Charlie Morton, those 2 in a lineup. Brantley is somewhat economically efficient for DraftKings. $3K, right there in the meat of a lineup. Might take a shot. You're probably not going to get a lot of power out of him, but definitely a guy that could multi-hit his way to value, maybe driving a run or 2, draw a walk. So at $3K, you flirt with 10 DKP, I'd be happy. So I would jot down Michael Brantley knowing what we know here. And yeah, let's matriculate on to the next game. The Kansas City Royals continuing their series against the Detroit Tigers. Pitching for the Royals, Danny Duffy. It's going to be his second start. He'll be up against Matt Boyd. Going to be his second start. Danny Duffy's 0-1 on the season, 4.15 ERA. A pair of strikeouts in that game. He gets the start after taking a 2-0 loss on opening day in Cleveland. He did go 4 1/3 innings and gave up 3 hits and 2 runs, walking none and striking out 2. So 2 strikeouts in 4 1/3 innings tells me there was a lot of batting average on balls in play, not going his way, not so much for the hitters, and we know his xFIP suggests that maybe that's not going to always be the case. Matt Boyd for the Tigers, 0-1 with a 7.2 ERA. He also has 2 strikeouts. He's going to try to rebound from an opening day loss that included a 30-pitch first inning with uncharacteristic command issues and back-to-back hit-by pitches to drive in a run. He went 2-2 with a 6.0 ERA and 5 starts against the Royals last year. If we look at Vegas, Vegas has given the Kansas City Royals a 4.4 implied run total. Tigers sitting at 5.2. I think the Tigers, just looking at their prices here, considering the high-priced pitchers on the slate, I think the Tigers are going to walk away as a chalky stack. Jonathan Scope went yard last night. Kristen Stewart went yard last night. We know C.J. Cron can smack lefties. I mean, this is a prime opportunity for the stack to develop into probably one of the highest owned stacks and probably one of the more higher owned conglomerate of players in lineups that do feature 2 or 3 of Morton, Garrett Cole, Jacob Degrom, guys like that. Danny Duffy giving up a 1.51 homer per 9 last season to righties, a 41.3% hard contact rate, and a 5.05 xFIP against lefties last year. His xFIP was high as well, 5.46 over a home run per 9. Remember, half of their games in Kauffman Park, a much more pitcher-friendly park than the average park. So certainly a great spot to kind of bank on some Tigers or play some Tigers. But I will say I do expect him to be a little bit more trendier today just because of the price points. Nico Goodrum, $2,500 on FanDuel, $4,300 on DraftKings. If you believe in the DraftKings algorithm a little bit more than FanDuel, you might be getting a bargain there on Goodrum. And if you look at some of the price differences from DraftKings to FanDuel lately, I mean, guys like Merrill Kelly, great example. Priced up on DK, you never get there, and then on FanDuel, they're a little bit too cheap. Same the other day with the kid from Houston. His name slips my mind right now, the CrossFit kid. CJ Cron, $3,100 on FanDuel, $3,200 on DraftKings. You guys want to see something? You guys want to see a dead body? CJ Cron on DraftKings is 3,200, and I don't understand some of the names above him. So as much as the DraftKings algorithm might be more accurate lately, CJ Cron is definitely a guy we know historically that can hit lefties with a little bit of pop. 315 average against lefties the last 2 years, 400 WOBA, slugging 591 of near 40% hard contact rate. Like, these are staggering numbers considering the matchup. You know he's a couple hundred more expensive than CJ Cron today? Let's go to Baltimore and pull up Chris Davis. Chris Davis is 3,500. Let's foreshadow this just a little bit. Let me scroll down. Just one game. Chris Davis, who might bat in the bottom 4 of the order. A 38.3% K rate to righties. Garrett Cole, a 43.7% K rate to lefties. Saying this, I know he's going to homer now. How in the blue heck, pardon my French, how in the blue heck is Chris Davis this freaking expensive on DraftKings considering so many other... Like, no one's going to play Chris Davis, but, like, CJ Cron is cheaper than Chris Davis? Come on, bro. Come on, man. Anyway, back to the Tigers. Jonathan Scope went Yabo yesterday, cheap on both sides. Yes, please. Miguel Cabrera, not expecting to hit for a lot of power. Last 2 years, he is slugging over 500. He has homered this season. Of course, that was in Great American Small Park. Cameron Maben's a guy I wouldn't mind sneaking in there. And just generally speaking, though, I think Nico Goodrum, Jonathan Scope, and CJ Cron, 3 guys really cheap on FanDuel that make my lineups. And like I said, I think this matchup will stand out to the average player, so I do think the Tigers will draw some ownership. One thing I will say is that Miguel Cabrera and CJ Cron are both, I think, only first base eligible, if I'm correct in that. If we go to first base. Only first base eligible, so maybe the field splits the ownership here, and maybe that eats away at Cron being mega chalk or vice versa. But generally, I think the Tigers will pick up some steam here. Royals bullpen, not something I'm scared of. So, not that I want to overly invest in the Tigers, but I do think if you're got your sights on the Garrett Coles, the Jacob Degroms, the Charlie Mortons, guys like that, you'll have to get a little bit cheap, and then the Tigers fit that mold. Matt Boyd, 9K on DraftKings, 8,400 on FanDuel. So last year's season was a very rocky ride. We know underlying metrics suggest that he has some swing and miss stuff, a 14.1% swinging strike rate, and it's huge. If you guys are... let me go pull that up, actually. Let me go to standings. I'm going to pull up one of my old tables that I saved. So let's go to Basic Fundamental. We did a video on this channel. If you guys want to see why I made this specific chart, on this channel there's a video called Something Stats that you should learn before the season starts. Swinging strike rate is the ability to throw a pitch and induce a swing that doesn't make contact with the ball. So for Matt Boyd to have a 14% swinging strike rate, he last season was the 8th best swinging strike rate in baseball amongst qualified starters. We're talking Garrett Coles, Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander, Luis Castillo, Jacob Degrom, Giolito, Patrick Corbin, and then Matt Boyd. I mean, look at some names below him: Bieber, Flaherty, Strasburg, Morton, Kershaw, Thor. He's a top 8 in swinging strike rate, so that's not an easy feat. So there's definitely something there that will allow us to get some high strikeout games here and there. If you guys remember years, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, Francisco Liriano, he kind of reminds me of Matt Boyd. Every now and then he would come out and have these big games, and then he would just kind of get shelled in other spots. And that's kind of something you could see happening with Matt Boyd. He does have a home run problem. Last year, a 1.78 home run per 9 to lefties and a 1.92 home run per 9 to righties. But you see the average was low, and the strikeout rate was about 30% to both sides of the plate. And we talked about him walking people in this last game. that's not a constant problem historically. 6.9% walk rate to righties last season, 4.1% to lefties. So he is the ultimate tournament pitcher, especially going against a team like the Royals that could kind of disappear. Now, the Royals do have Whit Merrifield, who we're going to like a lot, and some power versus lefties, guys like Jorge Soler. But generally speaking, there are some strikeouts in this lineup to be had. Jorge Soler, 27% K rate, 23.5% on Adalberto Mondesi. He's having a rough start to his season. Salvador Perez, historical lefty masher, but he's getting up there. Yesterday he pitched a goose egg. Ryan McBroom, if he makes that lineup, almost a 30% K rate. And then there's other guys here. Alex Gordon, I know he's got a sub 19%, a sub 20% K rate to lefties, but it's still a lefty on lefty matchup. So there is still a path to Matt Boyd being a crazy sneaky tournament play. I don't think you're getting a big bargain at his price point on either site, but I still think it's not a crazy range of outcome for Matt Boyd to be one of the better values, one of the higher scoring pitchers, and it would be a $3K discount on a guy like Jacob Degrom. So just kind of putting that out there, speaking that out into the world. You know, I like to freestyle thoughts when stuff like this happens. Danny Duffy, let's go to that pitch report on him. He's going to throw fastball, slider. A lot of the Tigers have a negative grade overall against the slider. Now, certainly, slider from righty to righty versus lefty to righty, a little bit different. And then that fastball, Jonathan Scopin, negative 1.5 against the fastball. That's a big yikes. CJ Cron's up there. So, yeah, let's move on. Orioles hosting the Yankees. Here we go. Garrett Cole making his second start for the Yankees. I think he's going to be up against Asher Wojciechowski. Garrett Cole was credited with a complete game victory in a rain-shortened opening day start at Washington. He threw 75 pitches in that outing, and he should be permitted to work in the 100-pitch range at Baltimore. Now, I don't know if after the rain hit, he went to the bullpen and threw more pitches, but I do remember him throwing mid-80s pitch count in the last scrim game. So I'm sure Aaron Boone wanted him to build off of that. I'd be kind of surprised if he didn't, but I can't confirm or deny that. Wojciechowski draws a tough matchup in his season debut as the Yanks are starting their new ace, Garrett Cole. The O's righty posted a 4.92 ERA in 17 games, 16 of them starts last season. He faced the Bronx Bombers once in 2019, allowing 5 runs over 4 innings. If you look at his metrics, a 1.44 home run per 9 to righties, a 2.33 to lefties. Not a whole lot of lefties you have to worry about from the Yankees lineup. Maybe this would have been a spot to maybe use a Mike Tauchman or a Mike Ford or something like that. But you got to remember the Yankees have had 2 unexpected days off, and really on opening day, think about it, they didn't use that bullpen much in that Max Scherzer game. They did go to the bullpen quickly in the game 2 where James Paxton was hit out of the game quick, but then they went to the front of the bullpen, so all the quality arms were kind of saved for game 3 against the Nats, and those were your Loaisicas, your Chad Greens, your Adam Ottavinos. I think Zach Britton closed that game, so those guys are going to be all on 2 days rest, which is more than enough for bullpens. So Garrett Cole can hand the ball over to one of those guys if he had to. But if you're a betting man, there's a strong likelihood the Yankees will be super favorites, and this might be one of those spots where Booney gets to go to a front end guy, and we don't see those guys unless he just wants them to get work. Wojciechowski does have a 1-4 strikeout rate against righties, 24.7%. There is some strikeouts to be had in the Yankees lineup, particularly against righties. A lot of righty-righty matchups, but certainly not a team I will be pitching against. Garrett Cole, 11.7 on FanDuel, 11.4 on DraftKings. This is going to be my favorite play of the day. Where I can get him, I'm going to get him. Easily going to be my highest owned pitcher, probably going to be my highest owned player. I said at the top of this video, I'm tired of playing no-name scrubs the last 2 days. I want to put some money into an ace, and whatever happens, happens. Garrett Cole didn't get a whole lot of strikeouts in that first game, but I'm going to say that the defending World Series champions have better K rates than the Baltimore Orioles. So let's go look at that game log from the Nats game, and let's go look at pitch. Let's go look at advanced. I want to see where his swinging strike rate was, if they'll give me that. Plate discipline. Heller. His swinging strike rate against Washington was at 12% for the game. Last season, it was at 16.8%. Again, Washington has a lot of lower strikeout guys, Howie Kendricks, stuff like that. And it was only 5 innings, so I'm not going to overreact. 45.3% swing rate. Now let's go look at his velocities. Pitch type, 97 mile an hour. Average velocity on his fastball, 89.3 on the slider, and 83 on the curve. We go compare that to last season's average, 97, 89, 82. So unlike a guy like Charlie Morton, he is right where he needs to be. So yeah, give me some Garrett Cole. I really don't have reasons to get spooked on him. And it's the Baltimore Orioles. All of this lineup have a sub 300 WOBA outside of Austin Hayes, and that's extremely short sample size. Not going to overreact to the Orioles beating the Red Sox in Fenway. I think we're starting to see that either the Red Sox are really, really cold or that team is a little bit dried up, right? Built in, though, Hayes, Santander, Jose Iglesias, Hanser Alberto. These are guys with generally low strikeout rates. But if they're going to make contact early, I do like the propensity for Garrett Cole to go out there and maybe get a little deeper into a game because they're pitching to contact. So I'm all for it. Against the Orioles, man, this is a Yankees team that made a living of hitting home runs against the Orioles last season, particularly a guy like Gleyber Torres, who it felt like he hit half his homers against the Orioles last season. He loves Orioles pitching, loves Camden Yards. So certainly at 3,200 on FanDuel, I feel like that's an extremely egregious price point that is way too easy to get to. So absolutely we'll be behind playing some Gleyber Torres today. Obviously Aaron Judge, I'll never say a bad thing about him. Giancarlo Stanton's had an extremely hot start to the season. Might be one of the most surprising starts to the season of most players, but especially for Yankee fans. Constantly injured kind of guy, coming off a 2 days rest. Hopefully he can keep that streak alive here against the Orioles. I mean, 38 for Giancarlo, 32 for Gleyber. I will take that all day long, all day strong. I mean, they're daring me not to play Garrett Coles with this type of value. I think DraftKings is making stuff tough. Man, you put Stanton, you put Gleyber Torres into a lineup. Where do they have him? Shortstop? Bam. That gives you 2,700 per. You could probably still punt and get away with a couple of these guys. So I like the starting point here. I do. 12K for Garrett Cole on either site, but especially FanDuel. I really want to have that win and quality start baked in. But again, I know that the floor is generally going to be high enough that I can accept a lot of. I can accept some disappointment in terms of ceiling. No Wojciechowski for me. If we go look at that pitch report for Wojciechowski, he's going to throw fastball, a below average fastball, 91.6 miles per hour, a way below average slider, a slightly above average cutter. So anyone that projects well against fastball slider, Aaron Judge, of course, not great against the cutter. Luke Voigt, Giancarlo bad against the slider. Also, another egregious price point here. I love me some Gary Sanchez, 5,600 on DraftKings. That seems like it's pushing it, but it's Baltimore. The whole Yankees lineup is essentially 5K or more on DraftKings. So you're definitely not going to see Yankee stacks if we're anticipating higher ownership on the Mortons, on the Degroms, and Garrett Cole. So, and you're not going to stack Orioles, and I'm not going to even entertain that thought. Let's move on to the next game. St. Louis Cardinals taking on the Minnesota Twins. Daniel Ponce de Leon. He's going to replace the injured Miles Michaelis for his first start of the season. Between the bullpen and spot starts last season, Ponce de Leon posted a 3.7 ERA across 48 and two-thirds innings. He's going to get his first opportunity to assert himself into the rotation out there against Minnesota. Rich Hill, originally slated to start Saturday against the White Sox, but he got pushed back to his original number 5 spot due to some minor soreness. He's fully recovered from off-season left elbow surgery. So you guys might remember Rich Hill from his stint with the Dodgers. He is an elder, let's say a journeyman statesman of the league, a little up there in age, and a guy that likes to throw the curveball. I think he's about 40 years old, so you're not going to expect a lot of velocity out of him. And last season, he had a 1.84 home run per nine to righties. We pull up his pitch report, and you see he's going to throw fastball and a lot of curveball. 43.7% curveball usage, 74.3 miles per hour on that curveball. And I know that sounds like you're soft tossing, dare you to not swing pitches, but hitting those can be easier said than done. He does or has been a guy to induce more ground balls than fly balls. Last season, 45% ground ball to righties, a 64% to lefties. So that curveball has a knack to be an inning-eating weapon. But you know it's coming. So this Cardinals team does have some names that perennially I do like against left-handed pitching. Harrison Bader, Paul Goldschmidt, Tyler O'Neill. Like, these are some names that I don't mind chasing for some errant homers. Goldie is a little bit up there on both sites. I think Glaber and Giancarlo Stanton are the same or less. Tommy Edman homered yesterday. He's 2,500 on FanDuel. If he's in the top three of the order, I don't mind looking at that. If we go look at that pitch report, anybody hit the curveball especially well, short sample size Tommy Edman does. And then Goldie with a 1+ rating. Paul DeJong, a 1+ rating. Matt Carpenter, it is lefty on lefty. Rich Hill does struggle against lefties. And yeah, Rich Hill been around for a minute, man. And he's been in the National League for a minute. So I am curious to see if there's any history here. We know Goldie was in his division for a while. So Rich Hill in the daily BVP tab in that RunDFS.com MLB VIP spreadsheet. Of course, Goldie batting .474 with 2 bombs. 9 for 19. 2 bombs. The rest are singles against Rich Hill here. So I definitely like a couple of Cardinal shots. Cardinals have an implied run total of 4.6. The Twins 5.5, almost a full run favorite, a -146 favorite. I don't see myself playing Rich Hill here, but he does have almost an 11% swing strike rate last season. Really low ERA, lower than his Sierra and xFIP, but those aren't high numbers either. So if you're looking for an inning eater SP2, maybe take a shot on him, and it's not the craziest thing, but I'm probably not there. Daniel Ponce de Leon, a sub 20% K rate to righties, a 4.87 xFIP, and a 1.84 home run per nine. Does keep the ball on the ground the most, and a very low hard contact rate. But as we saw yesterday with Carlos Martinez, who came into that game with a low hard contact rate, particularly against righties, Twins are the Twins, and they don't care. And that's something that we're going to be seeing a lot. And much like I'll always have Dodger stacks if I'm mass entering 150 lineups, probably always going to have Twin stacks. I mean, there's just so much devastating potential and upside. The Keplers, Josh Donaldson went yard yesterday. Jorge Polanco got him one. We know what Nelson Cruz did over the weekend. There's just like no breaks in this lineup. So certainly a lineup that I'll always stack just because. And then this Cardinals bullpen isn't something that I'm going to be running from. Let's move on to the next game. The Giants hosting the San Diego Padres. We've got Chris Paddock taking on Johnny Cueto for one of the 2 West Coast games when it comes to late start. So 8:10 p.m. Eastern is that Minnesota start time. 9:45 p.m. Eastern is the projected start time for this game. So you might even get a 2-game slate or some showdown action to play. Chris Paddock, 1-0 with a 0.00 ERA. He's got 4 strikeouts on the year. He made the most of his first opening day start, pitching 6 scoreless frames against the Diamondbacks on Friday. After pitching all of his rookie season on 5 days rest, this is his first big league outing with 4 days between starts. Wonder if that's going to be the new craze, because we saw Trevor Bauer was wanting to pitch on 4 days rest himself. Johnny Cueto, 0-0 with a 2.25 ERA. He has 3 strikeouts on the season. He's going to make his second start of the year after giving up 1 run over 4 innings against the Dodgers on opening day. He's 8-4 with a 3.3 ERA over 15 career starts against the Padres. So Cueto, historically good, former World Series champion as a rental for the Royals. He comes into this season with some metrics that are a little bit sus to say the least. A 4.71 xFIP, 4.6 xFIP against righties the last 2 seasons. Has been injured, hasn't really got his wheels under him. In that first game, it was kind of mix and match, and the Dodgers didn't necessarily get to him like maybe we thought they would. But it's definitely not something I want to overreact or underreact to. Now, if you guys haven't seen Johnny Cueto pitch, he's a guy that's a little bit more unique than the average pitcher because he uses several deliveries. What I mean by that, if you ever just watch his windup, he has what they call the rocking chair, the quick pitch. He has several different, 3, 4, 5 different windups to his pitch, and that can keep a hitter guessing and off guard. So even if you're just an average to plus pitcher, if you add that in, it could just make things a little bit more complicated. With that said, if we look at the underlying metrics of that start against the Dodgers, he had just a 7.9% swinging strike rate that game, with just a 36.5% swing rate and a 93% zone contact rate, which are all metrics that tell me that like I wasn't that stunned. And a 22% first strike rate is not what you want. If we go kind of paint a picture here and go to the swing tracks chart in the RunDFS.com at MLB VIP spreadsheet, if we're looking for, do I have first pitch strikes? You're looking for guys at least 50%, but closer to 60%. And Cueto didn't have that night. So it's not like we can look at actual metrics that matter and overreact. I think people might say, oh, he didn't die to the Dodgers. Well, you can't be results oriented in baseball when we have these beautiful, beautiful advanced metrics to kind of warn us of what's to come. We can look at batted ball, and we go look at BABIP and Sierra. Sierra was 4.35, xFIP was 4.84. Hard contact was down. We'll give them that, just a 77% medium contact rate. But all those other metrics are not something that I'm overly happy about. A 23% line drive rate. Do they have BABIP for the game here? Probably not, right? Let's see. Standard. Would it be under advanced? Here it is. He had a 385 BABIP. He didn't die with a 385 BABIP. Go figure. 86% left on base percentage. So I'm not going to overreact to Cueto here. I will say I do want to study more today. But before I even looked at this slate, I'm in several Twitter group messages and Discords, and I saw people thinking about playing Johnny Cueto, and I'm not necessarily here to say yes or no, but that's crazy to me that's such an instant thought. So I'm very curious to see where his ownership ends up, because I really can't justify it metrically other than to react to what didn't happen against the Dodgers. So there's that. And also, I mean, I'm not necessarily a Padres truther, but I respect the Padres enough, depending on what that lineup is. Fernando Tatis went yard yesterday. Guys like Machado, Tommy Pham, you guys know that they're well. Will Myers has a pair of homers already this season. I mean, this is not really a team that I grade lowly. So I don't think I get there on Johnny Cueto, but I am curious to see the public perception as the day progresses. And again, if you wanted to play him, if you're on him, if you have your own numbers to back it up, don't let me talk you off of it. I'm just thinking out loud here, and I'm very intrigued. I'm also very intrigued with playing Chris Paddack. Chris Paddack's a guy that I love. I think he's going to be one of the best pitchers in the league. After a couple years of grooming, I think this guy's going to be a force, and I think we're seeing it already. 11.5% swing strike rate last season. Sierra was at 3.83 at xFIP at 4. I definitely think there's room to improve upon that. He throws strikes, man. Low walk rate. Does give up an errant home run ball, 1.5 homer per 9 to lefties last season, 1.43. But the other metrics are nice. A 211 average allowed to lefties, 198 to righties. Hard contacts up there, but he's in the number 1 pitcher's park in baseball ever, basically, the last couple of years at least, the last 10 years, last decade. And this is a Giants team that does not hit for power. I wish, give me a second. Let me see if I can find this stat. Somebody posted it in the RunDFS.com Discord yesterday. Let's see if I can find Giants. Search Giants here. I think Nick Creasy posted it. It's a tweet that says, in the Discord, you see it. It says, The Giants have 30 hits this year. 26 are singles. It's a team that doesn't hit with a lot of pop, man. They don't. Chris Paddock at 8-4 on DraftKings. I think there's plenty of meat on the bone. There's another spot where I think his talent supersedes the price point. I think FanDuel has it right at 9.7. But 8.4K, this a guy I think has a shot at 20 DKP. And I'll take 20 DKP from an SP2 at an 8K price point. He does strike out righties more than lefties. It's going to be a Giants lineup that probably features more lefties and switchies than righties. And then they do have some high hit for average guys. But again, I think I can negate and neutralize a lot of that with just the fact that they're in AT&T or Oracle Park. So give me a couple shares of Paddock. On FanDuel at 9.7 with some of the value plays that we talked about, I don't know that I have a need for that. But the Padres have an implied run total of 4.6 as I speak. The Giants 3.5. They're over a one-run favorite. And FanDuel's not really an efficiency site. You sneak into 6 innings, give me a quality start, give me a win. I mean, that'll make up quite a bit as well. So I'm very intrigued with Chris Paddock on both sides, but on DraftKings 8.4, I think his talent is better than 8.4K, and the matchup isn't something that I'm running from. Does that make sense? I think it makes sense. We got one game left on the docket. We'll take a pause for the cause and let you guys be reminded of the fact that I will be in the RunDFS.com VIP Discord pretty much all day and all night talking some baseball. Our last night of MLB without NBA going on in the background as well. So if you guys want to join that party, man, go to RunDFS.com. Get signed up, click VIP passes. We got several options, week, 2 week, month, and then the year pass or the end of year pass, and you get locked in there. Once you do upgrade, click forums, go to VIP, and you'll see if you click this, you'll see 2020 VIP onboarding thread. Click on that. There'll be a link to the Discord, and I believe a link to the MLB VIP spreadsheet in there, and then you are joining the party. Say what's up to the chat, man. We'd love to get to know you, and then of course you'll get the spreadsheet link, and you can add this to your research repertoire. Anyway, main event tonight: the Angels hosting the Mariners. Justin Dunn, projected starter for the Mariners. Los Angeles Angels going to throw Andrew Heaney. Dunn is a shift, the guy who's going to shift to a 6-man rotation for the Mariners coming out of the MLB shutdown. Opened a spot for the rookie, and he's going to try and take advantage after making 4 abbreviated starts with a 2.7 ERA in 2019 as a September call-up. He'll be up against Andrew Heaney. Heaney was solid on opening day, but he was on a limited pitch count after dealing with back soreness the week before. He gave up 1 run over 4 2/3 innings with 6 strikeouts. So, Andrew Heaney's another guy that, because of the matchup, I'm a little bit intrigued with. I mean, there are some guys here that seem to hit lefties at a decent to high average. Tim Lopez, I believe, homered last night. We've been seeing Kyle Lewis kind of perform really well for a Mariners player. So I still think there's reason to want to play Heaney, and I did play the Angel starter last night. I think 7-1 on FanDuel, 7.9K on DraftKings. On the slate, just generally speaking, considering the high price stacks that are out there, I definitely think I would have some Heaney today, especially on DraftKings where I need that 8K range SP2. Chris Paddock's probably my favorite guy in that ballpark, but Heaney's certainly in the conversation. All right, let's take a minute to maybe look up Justin Dunn just to see what we're dealing with for this Mariners starter. He doesn't have enough sample size to register in the spreadsheet, so let's kind of go look at last season and see what we're dealing with. Just 1.1 innings pitched against lefties, 5.1 against righties, so it's really not even worth looking at his stats, but he was a September call-up, so the website I like to use to look at the minor league information is MILB.com. We'll click Justin, or we'll type in Justin Dunn. Click his name, Arkansas, and pull up his splits from the minor league season last year, 2019. And we'll see that against righties, 74.2 innings pitched, plenty of sample size there. Just a 200 average allowed, but a 0.86 whip. That's impressive. Is this double A? This is double A. All right, a little a little bit of a plus there, right? 54 hits in 74 innings, and 6 homers in 74 innings, so less than a home run per 9-ish, right? Against lefties, 57 innings pitched, 7 homers, a 277 average with a 1.63 whip. So it looks like he has a case of extreme splits. 8 walks in 1.1 inning last season against lefties. Holy cow. So his very, very limited sample size in the big leagues kind of continued his trends in the minors. So what we would want against him is a lot of lefties. And I don't think the Angels give us that. They got Shohei Ohtani, Tommy La Stella. I don't know if Joe Madden's going to take advantage of that. I wonder what kind of pitch count he's on. If he faces a bunch of righties, I'm not opposed to taking a shot. Generally, I think this would be more of a 2-game slate play or even a showdown play, right? This seems like a showdown where people maybe don't go crazy with this no-name pitcher. So I might have to keep that in mind. But there's plenty of underlying metrics to support that. I mean, look at against righties, 74 innings. How many strikeouts are we working with? 94. Oof, that's wild. That's a lot. And then against righties in 5.1 innings, 4 strikeouts in the bigs. Yeah. I'd probably take a shot on Justin Dunn on a short slate, like a 2-game slate, late slate, or a showdown slate. I don't think there's a need to get a little that fancy or that cute in the grand scheme of the main slate. But if he's on that showdown, I might play showdown just to kind of dabble with this and see what happens. And then still like use an angel stack or something like that, right? Andrew Heaney, 7.9K on DraftKings. Again, on that site, he's probably going to be the chalk pitcher, chalk play. You might even throw them together on a showdown or something like that. I think he's fine. I think it's 29% carry to righties, 27.5% to lefties. It's a plus park. His ERA was higher, much higher than his Sierra last season. His swing and strike rate is at 14.2%. I mean, that is right up there with, we talked about Matt Boyd being in the top 10. I'm sure that puts Heaney right there at 9 or 10 himself. So definitely some built-in metrics that the talent and the matchup should definitely be worth the risk at 7.1 on FanDuel, 7.9K on DraftKings. So Andrew Heaney absolutely makes my player pool. You don't need me to tell you that Mike Trout, Anthony Rendon could be good plays. Our Pujols homered yesterday, but I'm gonna chill on that. Mariners bullpen, not anything to run from. We even saw the Angels kind of woke up late there. They put up a lot of runs, 10 runs last night? So certainly a bullpen that we can beat up. And if you want that late night hammer, if you played Mike Trout last night and you can afford to go get him tonight, you do you, boo-boo. 6.2K on DraftKings. His ownership is going to be much lower tonight than it was last night. And yeah, that is your slate. That is your first look at tonight's MLB DFS Slate for FanDuel and DraftKings. Hopefully, you've kind of enjoyed the ride. We take a couple quick peeks at some of these tabs here. Let's go to hitter rating chart. Who's high in the bomb rating with sample size? Luke Voigt's up there. The Yankees, of course, up there. Jorge Soler's up there. Goldie's up there. Whit Merrifield's up there. So CJ Cron not too far either. So a lot of names we did discuss along this trip down breakdown lane. If you guys have anything else for me, twitter.com/Gundackersports. That's the place to get it done. DMs are open. You can always tweet at me. I'll probably wake up in the afternoon, get all that taken care of. And then, yeah, help me out with a thumbs up before you head out the door, man. I appreciate you guys. NBA's back tomorrow. Get signed up for a VIP pass. Try it out for a week if you haven't tried it out before. I'm going to do my best to get you guys covered for everything. It's going to be stressful. There's going to be a lot going on. That Discord is going to be huge for the NBA because NBA is going to be all days. A lot of late swap. A lot of news that's going to come out. Maybe not the first couple days, but as the season progresses. And that Discord, we have the everyone tag. We'll keep that information out there. You can keep peeking at your phone, whatever you're doing throughout your day, your work day, what have you. It's definitely a community to plant yourself in as we move forward with this DFS season for both baseball and basketball. I am going to get out of here. I will see you guys in the next video. I love you. Good luck. God bless. Go win some money.